welcome to the Music Business Buddy with me, Johnny Amos, podcasting out of Birmingham in England. I'm the author of the book, The Music Business for Music Creators. I am a music creator myself. I'm a producer. I'm a consultant, an artist manager, and a senior lecturer in both music business and music creation. Wherever you are, whatever you do, consider yourself welcome to this podcast and to a part of this community. My goal here, everybody, is simple. I'm trying to educate and inspire music creators from anywhere in the world in their quest to achieving their goals by gaining a greater understanding of the business of music. Okay, so in this week's episode, I'm joined by a guest by the name of Jason Hollis. Now, Jason is a multifaceted entrepreneur and veteran of the music industry. He's Nashville-based. He's been in LA for a long time too. He's seen a lot of things come and go and change in the music industry. He's a producer. He co-owns a venue in Nashville. He's an author. He does all sorts of different things. And one of the things that really fascinates me about his work is he's very well known for his keynotes, right? His keynote speeches where he kind of explains to artists how to build a career, what to look out for, how to use data as leverage, and how to kind of build connections. And also his idea of not asking for permission, right? Which is something that he will allude to in this interview. He's well known for that aspect of his career, amongst many other things. He's a really interesting guy. He's very empowering, very, very resourceful. So I hope that you get a lot out of listening to him. And I'm going to hand over to the interview now.
I was just over there in your part of the world. Whenever I was there for Oasis at Wembley. Oh man, it was like a Premier League championship match with everybody in the stadium rooting for the same team. It was absolutely epic. I've seen shows all over the world, big and small. I've never seen anything like this in my life, ever. It was such a magical thing.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, man, because guys my age who grew up with Oasis and their 15-year-old sons, you know, in the gear, knowing every word. Like it was epic, man. Just I've never seen anything like it ever. It's probably the best show I've seen in my life.
That's it. You see, I was one of the unfortunate people that wasn't able to get a ticket for that reunion tour. But I was at Nebworth
Yeah.
in '96 and saw them then.
You,
So that's
seen
my trump
something
card.
that only 250,000 other people saw.
Yeah. That's it. It was wow. It's good to meet you. Yeah, I've heard a lot about you. I've read a lot about you. You've done all sorts of wonderful things throughout your career so far. Can I start by kind of asking you about one of your quotes, right, from one of your signature talk, The Machine, right, where you say, "Build leverage, own the audience." Right. It's a great statement.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on it a little bit?
So the old model of the record industry is completely dead, like what guys like us grew up on. That model where, when I was 15 years old, you were in a garage band, and everybody in your band was wearing, a Capitol Records t-shirt or Epic or Casablanca or, record labels were really a significant piece in youth when I was growing up. And it was because of it was the development side of things. It was really when I was coming up, I really studied artist development. Andrew Loog Oldham, who discovered the Rolling Stones, Ahmet Artigan, just all these different guys. And that business model that we knew is completely gone. There is no more artist development. We're in this new model where the artist really kind of is the label. They are the distributor. They are the network. Um, and my philosophy has always been kind of like this new model. It's always build leverage and hold receipts. And by that I mean, for example, I had a band um, that I started working with in the late '90s called the Pink Spiders. They were a band here in Nashville um, that I started working with, and I had moved to Los Angeles at the time. Um, at the time that the band really started kind of catching fire. That was around 2004. Um, w that band in particular, we used MySpace at the time. MySpace was that was the big music platform. It had a it was great for artists, it was great for
Mhm.
users. Great for artists in the sense that we had all this robust back-end analytics. You had heat maps, you knew where your fans were located. You could plot touring around heat maps. You had forums that you could build. You had so many ways to contact and be in touch with your audience. You had mailing lists. You had all of this stuff built in. We booked 250 shows a year for the band, toured them all over the states, and really started cultivating and creating leverage. Meaning there was 100,000 fans on MySpace. We were touring 250 days a year, selling tons of merch, getting lots of streams, and by that time, all the record labels started contacting us. So we'd get A&R letters or emails, and through that leverage, I kind of used my network in Los Angeles. I didn't have a big network in 2005. I'd signed a couple of bands, but still, I was still a kind of a pawn in the game of chess. And um, so what I did was I used my network of like assistants. So I had a really good friend named Rachel Ryan. Rachel was she was the assistant for Paulie Anthony, and Paulie was the co-president of Geffen Records. And so our goal was to slide this band into Paulie Anthony's inbox, basically. And she didn't like the band. So what Rachel and I comprised this little scheme to use her network of all of the different like assistants for different heads of labels and start passing around that this band was getting A&R letters from everyone. Everybody wanted this band. So kind of created a little bit of a buzz with that. Um, and then we brought the band into LA and did a showcase at the Viper Room, and then that led into a bi-coastal bidding war. And by leverage, I mean what I mean by that is, we went out and we really A&R'd that band. We got them moving. We built tangibles. We built assets that a label could look at. We built a number of fan base, and what that did was it gave us leverage in negotiating the record deal. Um, and in 2005, that was
Yeah.
we were kind of on the end of the the last record deal before it became simply just 360. So we had some
Mhm.
leverage going in to be able to negotiate. And had we not done all of this work with the band and had all of these analytics, we wouldn't be in a position to go in and really negotiate. And we did. We negotiated hard because at that point in 2005, we were just coming into like digital likeness, and record labels wanted to own your digital likeness. Meaning, if the drummer did a cartoon and he was the voice of a cartoon, they owned his voice. So we were able to really kind of go in and change a lot of that stuff because we had leverage. In this new model that we're in, the artists are doing all of the work. and they're doing what I was doing. I've done my whole career, which is don't wait for anybody. Just start doing and start building and make them come to you. And that's kind of the model that we're in now is artists have all the control. There is no more artist development. Artists are having to do all their own development. They're having to figure out what songs work with through their fan base. And I think it's just a I think we're in a better time right now. This new model is something that I've been advocating for almost my whole career, and we're in this new model now, and it's in the hands of the artists, and uh, I couldn't be more excited for it, because like when you think about it, the artists now, they own everything. They own their content. They are the distributor. They are the marketer. They are the A&R. They're the publisher. They're everything. And with that, when you build online now, you're creating leverage. So, just for example, if you're a young artist right now, and I've seen some of this happening online, and we can talk about trends here in a little bit, but one thing that I've been seeing are like artists using their fan base to get their fan base interested in their music very early on. So what you're seeing now, trend wise, are people just shooting like selfie videos of a verse that they just wrote, and they'll sing the verse and then they'll upload that video and tell the audience, "Hey, I just wrote this verse. What do you think about this? If you like it, let me know what you think, blah, blah, blah. If you like it, I'll start working on a chorus," whatever. So they're getting instant feedback from their audience. Um, Now the audience is invested in this song, right? And they're wanting more. So then, your next video, they're dropping a chorus. And now the audience is really invested. So by the time you keep building this thing up and you release your song, you've got a group of it might be a small group, it might be 15, it might be 20, it might be 100, it might be 1,000 people that are invested early on as super fans into this song. They've watched you create it. So now when you go and you launch this thing, you have a network of people that are going out and helping you push it. So I'm just really excited about kind of where we are in the music business right now because it's something that I've believed really needs to be the way forward for probably my whole career.
Yeah, I agree. I think things are better now than they've ever been for a number of reasons. One of the other things as well that falls in line with what you're talking about there, and I think it's something that a lot of music creators really struggle
Yeah.
with, right? Is the idea of not asking for permission. I know that's something that you refer to quite a lot, in your work. It is a big hurdle for a lot of people, but it's a valuable lesson to learn, right? Any advice you can give to people on that subject?
Um, in the old model of the music business, it was pick me. You were kind of at the mercy of this label or a manager or an agent. Um, and they had all the power, Well, you're not ready. You're not, you haven't toured enough. You don't have enough following. And it was always kind of like this pick me model. Um, I'm all about like just go do it. Don't wait for anybody. There's no permission needed to go and start your career. You don't need anybody. You need yourself. You need strategy. You need a plan, and you need to put the time in on doing the work. Um, I've always felt like to do something like this is a crazy business. It's very difficult, you know. There's a not everybody makes it, but you can have a career. You don't have to be a famous person to make it in the music business. You can have a great career, being known in your own city, really. Um, you just don't need anybody any
Mhm.
longer. So yeah, the no permission thing comes back from don't wait around. Don't wait for permission from anybody, just get started. I've always really believed that you have to switch something in your brain. There was a point in my time in my career, it's probably pretty early on. I think I was around like 24. Um, and I'd been in the music business for a while. Um, but like nothing was happening, lots and lots and lots of failure. And I remember one day just very vividly, like sitting in the shower, thinking like, "Man, fuck this. This is terrible." Like, is this how it is? And I had to I had to make this conscious decision in my brain that like, okay, look, if this is how it is, you just have to you really have to go for it. But you have to make a conscious decision of this is my life. This is what I'm choosing to do for the rest of my life. This is what I want to do, good or bad. I'm going to make the very best out of whatever, my decisions. And I'm going to absolutely 100% go for it. And because, like, the music business, like anything, it has to become a lifestyle. You really have to make it your lifestyle. You have to believe that you're a rock star. You have to believe that you're the best. You have to believe in yourself. And with that, you know, I firmly think that it's a conscious decision that you have to make, and you have to flip a switch and go like, all right, this is it. I'm going for it. Because it might take you 20 years. Some people it might be overnight. Um, but within those overnight successes, you don't see the 10-year follow-up that it took them to become an overnight success, you know?
Yeah, good point. You mentioned something really interesting earlier about the idea of kind of, a band or a singer-songwriter going, "Hey, I've written this verse. Let me post this. See what you think." Encourage that sense of ownership amongst people. Are those kind of good initial steps, do you think? Like, imagine an artist that's just starting out right now in 2026, and they go, right, where should I know what I want out of this, but like, where should I start? Like, what are those first steps? Are those the first steps?
You know, I think that, when you're talking about, like, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, which that's kind of where I tend to target my audience. These kids they're way smarter than you and I are, when it comes to technology, because they grew up on it. We've adapted to it. They've grown up on it. They have a pretty good idea of, what the market is doing and what the market is saying. It's just almost like a natural instinct that I believe that they have. So they know where to start. They know what to do. They know kind of usually what they're gonna how their approach is gonna be and what they're gonna do and if they're gonna what platform they're gonna use. And um so I would say the vast majority of the artists that I'm looking at now, like I've been watching this band out of I believe they're from Denmark called Liou. Um the little girl is 12 years old and her brother is 16 or 17. This little girl's writing songs that are way above her age bracket, and her brother are crafting these great songs. They're using TikTok, they're using like Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and things like that, and they're just building. They're putting their music out, and they know how to clip it. They're writing great songs. So I think it's just it's wherever you feel like you have a place and how you wanna kinda start. You just have to put yourself out there. The name of the game is starting, and then it's consistency, repetitive, you have to be consistent to keep going, keep dropping your song.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Can I ask you about
Yeah.
Nashville, right? Because you co-own the Eighth Room. Um, that's very cool. What's the scene like in Nashville this decade in the 2020s so far?
the scenes everywhere are interesting. Um, like Nashville is a songwriter town, you know? A lot of songwriters here. Uh, I mean, I kind of came up like in between Nashville and Los Angeles both. Los Angeles for me was very much like an industry town, um, music industry, where Nashville is an industry town, but it is really revolving around songwriters. So you have a lot of songwriter rounds, songwriter showcases, things like that. Back in the '90s in Nashville, you had a little bit of a different like development style. Like there's a main street in Nashville called Broadway. And back in the '90s, an artist would start busking on like Second Avenue and they'd work their way up Broadway to hit like Fifth Avenue and Broadway where some of the bigger venues were. And as you worked your way up Broadway, um, the labels started coming around. So there was like a development cycle. Nashville currently, um, downtown has become more of a like a touristy place, so the patterns have really kind of changed. You still have your music venues and clubs, that's very active. It's just the scenes all change, the scenes change. London was very different in the '90s for me than it is currently, the scene. Um, but yeah, Nashville's very, very songwriter based.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, nothing ever kind of,
All the
stands still,
Yeah.
does it? Things change all the time, as they should, right? Otherwise places become preoccupied by their past and whatnot. Let's talk about the LA scene, right? Because you spent a great deal of time, in LA. How does the culture there compare to musically? You talked there about the idea of kind of Nashville being more of a songwriter kind of place, and in LA still,
Yeah.
but it almost kind of like been like the hub of the pop world, right? Is it still like that now? Does it still feel that way?
It's definitely changed. Like I said, Los Angeles is far more industry based. Um, Nashville and New York both, I felt were very industry heavy, where I believe like a place like Nashville is a bit more artist driven. Um, LA, LA is
Right.
LA. You know,
Interesting.
it's who you know. It's your network. It's a hard industry to get into. Um, it'll take you 5 years to get just into the business side there, and it'll take you another 10 to really establish your contacts. But it's a yeah, they're very different vibes. It's just very different. You know, I don't know, man. I've seen there's a lot of Los Angeles and New York moving to Nashville right now. Nashville's kind of a hot spot. Um, just because it's just, it's a smaller place, and we have all the industries here. Spotify's here, Apple Music's here, Amazon Music's here, all the record companies here, all the agencies are here. And it's like Los Angeles, for example, is it's hard to get around, right? So if you live in Hollywood, the record labels are in Santa Monica, they're in Hollywood, they're in Burbank, they're spread out. uh, You know, takes you a half. You have to spend your day plotting out trying to get around there, and then they're fortresses. You can't get into them. In Nashville, you're talking about a 15-mile loop, and everything is within that loop. Um, all the labels are accessible. It's easy to network and get around. So I think when you're, the great thing about where we are right now, though, for artists is we have the internet, and you don't have to leave your your house. If you live in, Mississippi somewhere and you're like, I want to be an artist, you can sit in your bedroom and you can build a fan base, you can build a following, you can start building a touring route. You can do everything that from your home. Where when I was coming up, you I felt like you had to be in Nashville, New York, or Los Angeles. You had to be there. You wanted to be seen, or if you wanted to get into the industry, or if you wanted to be noticed. And now it's completely changed. Anybody in any bedroom, anywhere in the world can be in the music industry. And I think that's great because it really opens us up to um, discovery mode, and then also consuming things from around the world now. I listen to stuff from everywhere, all over the world now. And the discovery platform I use is Instagram or TikTok. Usually Instagram, because Instagram has a feature you can go up to in your settings, and you can go look at your algorithm for Instagram, and you can go in and you can put um, new music, or new artists in Japan, new artists in London, new artists in Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, Hawaii, wherever, and you can filter things and your algorithm will adapt to that. And then you're just looking at all these new artists. So I think the discovery model is completely different. It's not just radio any longer. It's not, big labels pushing out, what you should listen to. We're back to real discovery mode, which I think is just absolutely fantastic. And anybody in the world has access to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's a good point. I suppose there is kind of one downside to that, and is is in the inability sometimes for the younger generation to know how to behave when they're around well-known people if they're not used to that. Well, if for anybody
Yeah.
that's not used to that, right? But when there's less human interaction when it comes to those fantastic things that you're talking about there, it can be a challenge sometimes for people that are they're finding their way into the music industry to know how to behave around well-known people, right? It's something that I've talked about before on the podcast with some other guests in the past. I mean, you've worked with, the likes of Pharrell Williams, Justin Timberlake. Is there any advice that you can give to people in that regard? In terms of being prepared to know how to behave around people.
The upper echelon of talent, um, these guys are pros. You're walking into a situation and you're expected to work and come in with ideas. And um, so I don't, I've never had like been starstruck. I've been around famous people my whole life almost. And I think that, once you get into the mind frame of, these are guys doing what they love to do, and they're serious about what they're doing, you have to be equally as serious about what you do. So when you walk in, if you throw an idea out or if you correct something, you have to be confident in your ability, and confident with, what it is that you're suggesting or saying. So I just think that there is a level of any room that you walk into, you have to remember that um, your appearance and the energy of you walking through that door sets the tone. Um, so I always tell people, every single day you should look and act and dress the part that you want to become. So I think it's really just about having the confidence of walking in, looking the part, and and being confident of walking into that room and knowing these people went through this, the same things, on a different level that you're going through. And I think you just have to walk in and
Yeah.
you have to know who you are, really.
Yeah. Good advice. Um, And finally, Jason, I'd love to ask you a little bit more about you because you've done all sorts of different things in the music business and you're known to many different people in different aspects of the music business as per playing different roles. And what are your ideals moving forward from here? Like, are you still producing and stuff?
Producing for sure. I think kind of moving forward with me, it's really about you know, I want to take everything that I've learned in 30 years of doing this and really start giving back. Um, and kind of teaching younger kids everything that I've learned because there is a strategy behind uh, this madness, And I think the reason I've been able to kind of jump into lots of different roles is because I strategize. You know, I know there's multiple levels to this answer for you, but strategy is one thing. Really knowing how to go in and either read the room, read the project, and walk in with X, Y, and Z is what we need to do to move the needle, and then have the plan to be able to execute that. That's one thing, but also I think that you really have to know history. I think it's very important. I was doing a lecture last week at a at MTSU School of Music here in Tennessee, and I was talking a little bit about history, and you just kind of saw everybody go blank. And when I was coming up, I read every book about everybody that I could get my hands on, whether it was artist development, marketing, everything you need to know about the music business by Donald Passman. I read everything that you could read. And then not only that, but I started studying music, like really studying music. I mean, because you can go back to like the Renaissance era and you can look at like every decade from the Renaissance era, how the music changed every decade. The music changed, the styling changed, the vocabulary changed. You can move that to the 1950s and look at the 50s and the way people dressed and songs were about surfing or sock hops or taking your girl to the dance. You look at the 60s and the 70s and everything has a timestamp on it. And I think that that's one thing that I've found now with some of the younger kids is they're not really studying history. What they know is what's on their phone. Um, and I think that some of the confidence and some of the strategy that I've obtained in my life is really from understanding history because history repeats itself. And the more you know about the music business or music in general, about the past, the more you can take into the future. Or you can go and you can rewrite your own future, you know? Um, but yeah, I think that you really have to have a strategy and you most definitely need to know history. 'Cause that's gonna come up constantly. Like, one thing, like, with Pharrell, with m multiple artists, you'd get in and they'd start talking about, like, a punk rock band from the 1970s, you know? And you need to be able to jump into that conversation, know who they're talking about, and be able to add to that conversation. Those that history breaks walls down very quickly.
That's a very good point. I find myself like totally nodding along and agreeing with you, and yet I don't think anyone's ever spoke about that before on this podcast with me. I think it's almost like a given that that people have a certain knowledge of certain decades, of certain styles, or whatever. But of course, the more we know, the more resourceful, the more useful we become to other people, whether that's creatively in the room or strategically in a different room or
Well, like if you go back and you look at um, Motown, for example, Barry Gordy was a genius. You know, he was Barry Gordy was the new model of the music business before there was a model. And if you go back and you really kind of study how Barry Gordy set up Motown and how he developed artists and how he developed songwriters and how he published and how he put records out, it's an absolute blueprint. It's a blueprint. Like I studied Andrew Luke Oldham, who was the 17-year-old genius that discovered the Rolling Stones. How he went and his marketing mind or his PR mind. Um, there's so much information in books that people just they give you. They give you blueprints, and I think that that's one thing that I would really like to see younger people do is dive into history and understanding who the forefathers were that kind of set this thing up. Because again, the more you know history wise, the more you're able to go in and rewrite or write your own future. It's important.
I appreciate that, and a perfect
Thank you,
note to
Johnny.
end on as well. Jason, thank you so much for your time, for your kindness, for your insight. You're a great guy. My
Oh
God,
man,
you
thank
you
you.
are you are such a
Likewise,
rock star, by the
likewise,
way, as
Sarah.
well, man.
And
Yeah, here's an interesting thing. I'll share this with you before we wrap up. Right, when I used to tour quite a lot several years ago, whenever I used to tour with an American musician, I would always ask them a question because I'm fascinated by the answer to this one. So I'll ask it to you as well. Who do you think are the greatest American rock band there's ever been?
the greatest American rock band.
Oh my goodness, we left that on a cliffhanger there, didn't we? Sorry, everybody. That was not a part of the editorial process by any means. We actually dropped connection towards the end of the call there, which was weird, right? Because we did leave it on quite an interesting question. Just for the benefit of anybody that's wondering, what Jason actually answered was either the Foo Fighters or the Eagles, right? Very interesting question, though, right? Greatest American rock band of all time. I feel like I'm running a pub quiz here. But anyway, I just didn't want to leave you on that kind of cliffhanger there. I hope that you enjoyed everything that Jason had to say. He's an interesting guy, isn't he? He knows his onions. And what a cool dude, by the way, as well. Like, I think he would be fun to have a few drinks with, wouldn't he? Maybe that will happen someday. I'd love that to happen. He's a great guy, very, very cool customer. I hope that you enjoyed what he had to say. I know I certainly enjoyed talking to him, listening to him, and just absorbing his views on everything that he knows. Right. And I'll be interested to see where he goes next, right? This whole path of musical evolution, everyone's got their journey, right? Everyone's got their own kind of path of where they go and what happens next. Every day's a gamble. You never know what's coming next, right? But wherever he goes, whatever room he's in, I'm sure it'll be a fun place. So I thank him for his time, and I thank you for your time, for sticking with me, right? During all this podcasting that I now do, right? I appreciate you being here. I do this to try and help people, right? So if there's anything that you think, how does that work in music? Or how does this work over here? Or what does that mean? Just reach out to me, right? I'm a friendly dude. I'm here to help. That's the whole point of me being here and doing this. So wherever you are, have a great day. Until next time, everybody, may the force be with you.